I'm doing a video here that's going to end up on two playlists, and that happens sometimes. So there's a playlist I started during the pause on careers that were too short, and this is one of them, Paul Reinhart. But also, I'm going to put him in the THG Hall of Fame. So let me recap here. THG Hall of Fame is meant for players that I know are not Hall of Fame caliber. They are players that it's going to be players I grew up watching. It's going to be players that I thought were really good. And in this case, it's a player who, if he hadn't dealt with the injuries he did, and he basically just buggered his back in a game against Winnipeg and never came back after that. It just, it's one of those things. It was a fluke thing. He twists the wrong way, and who knows what might have happened. Paul Reinhart. Now, yes, related to Reinhart. So, Max, Griffin, and Sam are his three sons. And I was very excited when I already had kids coming up. I know in NHL games, I was like, I got to get Max, I got to get Griffin. And it's because he was one of my favorite players. And what's interesting with Reinhart is he had been one of my favorite players in Calgary and then became one of my favorite players in Vancouver. So what I'm wearing here is a Flames jersey. I know he never wore this. But number 23, Reinhart. That was his number. And I'd been on the fence. I knew I wanted a Paul Reinhart jersey, and I didn't know whether I wanted it Vancouver or Calgary. And when I knew that this jersey was being retired, so they're going to wear the red version of this, but the white one they're not going to wear this year, I thought, well, I'll go ahead and get that. And so I'm happy that I have a Paul Reinhart jersey. With the idea of when the world opens up again and I can start having meetups, the jerseys with the names on the back, those are the ones that I'm going to wear to meetups. So Reinhart's drafted number 12 in 1979. Huge, very talented draft in 1979 because that was when they dropped the age that you are allowed to be drafted to 18. So 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds were both being drafted. He comes in and plays for the Atlanta Flames in 79-80. So he debuts as a member of the Atlanta Flames. 79 games, 9 goals, 38 assists, 47 points. He's 5th in Calder voting that year. So 80-81, he is transferred to Calgary along with the rest of the Flames. 74 games, 18 goals, 49 assists, 67 points. That spring, the Calgary Flames had an amazing run. They go to the conference final, the semifinals. 16 games, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points. It was the semifinals at the time. And not only that, but he appeared in 2 games in the Canada Cup for Team Canada. They won a silver medal, and so Reinhart's a part of that. And the interesting thing, too, is that when he played for Calgary at that stage, he played roughly 30 minutes a night. Sometimes he was at center, too. They would alternate between having him at center and on the blue line. So lots of ice time for Reinhart. Tons. 81-82, 62 games played, 13 goals, 48 assists, 61 points. So he misses games with injury, but it's not the big one yet. Not yet. 3 games in the playoffs, 1 assist, and of course in 1982, they lost in the first round against Vancouver. He would be intertwined with Vancouver after this as well, of course. 82-83, 78 games played, 17 goals, 58 assists, 75 points. He finished 7th in Norris voting that year. 9 games in the playoffs, 6 goals, 3 assists, 9 points. Do believe they knocked out Vancouver in the first round that next year. So 83, the Flames are on their way up. They look pretty darn good, and he's a huge part of that team. Paul Reinhart was absolutely a huge part of that team, but 83-84 hits, and he's never quite the same after. 27 games, 6 goals, 15 assists, 21 points. Herniated disc. One of those fluke things. And it got to the point where they tried various experimental treatments with his back because it was never quite the same after that. So he missed a lot of games with a herniated disc. Comes back for the playoffs, 11 games, 6 goals, 11 assists, 17 points while dealing with back pain. So he's dealing with all this back pain. He's invited to Team Canada for the 84 Canada Cup, and he turns him down because his back is just buggered. He needs the time off. So 84-85, still dealing with the back problems, 75 games, 23 goals, 46 assists, 69 points. And honestly, he's dealing with a lot of pain. He still puts up almost a point a game. That's heroic in my eyes. In the playoffs, 4 games, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points. And so the playoff total's not fantastic, but the regular season number's fantastic. And really, Calgary just couldn't quite get over the hump. They would, though. 85-86, they go to the Stanley Cup Finals. But he only played 32 games that year dealing with back spasms. His back continues to be a problem. 8 goals, 25 assists, 33 points. In the playoffs, He plays a lot. 21 games, 5 goals, 13 assists, 18 points. More than a point a game over that shortened season for him. Almost a point a game in the playoffs. And even in the 80s, where you're seeing a lot of defensemen putting up a lot of points, Reinhart does this well. He's getting a number of votes for Lady Byng as well, because he's a very gentlemanly player. We're talking about a guy who's playing a ton and not taking penalties. And yet he wasn't weak defensively either. Reinhart was good at both ends of the ice. 86, 87, the most games he would play for the rest of his career, 76 in a season anyways. 15 goals, 53 assists, 68 points in the playoffs, 4 games played, and 1 assist. 87, 88, he misses almost the entire season. A lot of back pain. 14 games and 4 assists. In the playoffs, 8 games played, 2 goals, 7 assists, 9 points. So the Flames are looking at their team in 1988, and they say, we want to get younger, and we want to revamp some things. And so Reinhart becomes expendable. Again, he only played 14 games that year. Vancouver needs defensemen. Desperately needs defensemen. Basically, they're running Doug Lidster into the ground, Garth Butcher into the ground, and it would be nice to have somebody else to, run into the ground. So he's traded. They didn't know anything else to do with defensemen at the time. He's traded with Steve Bozak for a 1989 third-round draft pick, which they used to draft Veli-Pekka Kautonen. And this was, again, after he'd missed most of the season. So for Vancouver, they're picking up a damaged defenseman in Reinhart that they're hoping they can rehab. Steve Bozak, a decent bottom six forward, I should say. I think he was a left winger. I like Bozak as well. He would end up bouncing around a little bit later on, but I like Bozak. So 88, 89, he comes over to Vancouver, and again, he's dealing with a lot of back pain. 64 games played, 7 goals, 50 assists, 57 points. Vancouver knows you're not going to get 80 games out of him, but 64 is pretty good considering the back pain and all that. 7 games played in the playoffs, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. 7 games against the Flames. So he goes to Vancouver. His first playoff series as a Canuck is against the Flames, and it's the year that Calgary's going to go and win the Stanley Cup. And he helped to lay the groundwork for that team to become a Cup champion. So that had to be bittersweet for him. He had to be happy for those guys to see them win a Stanley Cup. And on some level, I had to be thinking, if only I could have been there. So, Reinhart, really, really solid defenseman and a fighter. He played 67 games that last year, 17 goals, 40 assists, 57 points. He's putting up almost a point a game while dealing with severe back pain. Cannot play every night because of his back acting up. He is named the Canucks' top defenseman both seasons. Like I said, the Canucks' defense is running defensemen into the ground at this point. But he was a huge part of a team in 88-89 that was getting better. The team did fall back in 89-90 because it's what the Canucks did. They never got to 500 with him there, but certainly not on him. And again, being named the Canucks' top defenseman, getting the Babe Pratt Award both times, is pretty impressive considering the amount of pain he was playing with. He ends up with 517 games with the Flames organization between Atlanta and Calgary. 109 goals, 336 assists, 445 points. With Vancouver, 131 games played, 24 goals, 90 assists, 114 points. 648 games altogether, 133 goals, 426 points, 426 assists, 559 points. His points per game is excellent. Again, if not for injury, this is a defenseman that would be talked about in much more glowing terms. In the playoffs, 83 games, 23 goals, 54 assists, 77 points. This is why when Griffin Reinhart was coming up through juniors, he was highly touted. You look at that name Reinhart, you look at the numbers Griffin was putting up, and you say, this guy should be fantastic. If he's a fighter like his father, who knows what he might be able to do. Now, in his career, here's what's interesting. He had 65 goals on the power play. He also had 65 goals 5-on-5. So that's very even right there. 3 shorthanded goals. So he was very good on the power play, and that was something that definitely would have helped Vancouver at that point as well, because they're the Canucks. And of course, he would retire due to chronic back issues. Once the 89-90 season was over, it was pretty much done. And it was too bad because Reinhart was fantastic. This hockey card here that I have on the board, I'm debuting that now. I got some card holders through magnet sheets on the back so I can have a hockey card on the board because it's going high tech with these career videos. But yeah, Reinhart, this card is from after the 89-90 season. So that was his last year. They just didn't know at the time they put those cards out he wasn't coming back. And it is a shame. He would have business adventures in Vancouver as well after he retired. But what I remember him for is when he came over to Vancouver and just the play we got from him. The one Vancouver equivalent I would go with, kind of sort of, is Randy Gregg. That when they picked up Randy Gregg, he was kind of like, I'm not leaving Edmonton. Why are you picking me? And I thought it was ridiculous at the time. I remember laughing at Vancouver. But then Randy Gregg came in and he was a very useful utility defenseman for Vancouver. I thought it was a smart pickup. And Reinhart as well. At the time he's traded to Vancouver, nothing would have been expected. He only played 14 games the year before, and then he was their best defenseman. So there you go. Paul Reinhart's career. Actually, this ends up in 3 playlists, right? Career video, THG Hall of Fame video, because of course, and also the dreaded careers that were too short playlist. And it was, 648 games. This is a defenseman who should have played over 1,000, and if not for his back injury and the ongoing back problems that just held him to so few games, he would have probably played 1,000, 1,100 games, probably would have ended up around 900 points. But again, there's a lot of coulda, woulda, shoulda, but we can only go with what we had. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.